Hello, everybody. Welcome to our live stream. I'm so excited to have you guys here today because we have a brand new setup. And also, we're going to talk about some really cool and interesting things with you guys today about how to build a scalable, time-saving wiki. I'm really excited because this is something that has been in the works for the last few months. We've been working really hard on trying to identify and understand exactly what does it take to build the best wiki system that gives you the most opportunities to scale, right? So that more people, when they come in and add their own resources, it's very easy to find information you need, to manage information you need, and to understand who really is owning each piece of knowledge so that whenever there needs to be updates, who's going to be one that's going to be actually doing it. Because as your organization grows, as your community grows, you're going to need more and more people involved. So it's very, very important to have both a wiki that is easy to manage, easy to access, and easy to use. So we're going to solve all those three problems today. And I'm so excited to have you guys here today because we're going to show you exactly how we did it. We're going to give you a real tour into our own wiki system, as well as show you how we're going to build up some new pages inside our wiki from scratch to show you how it all works. So you get the end-to-end experience. So let's get straight into it. So coming into it, you can see that as always, when we start a new live stream, we want to break down the why, what, and how so that we make sure that what we're doing today is extremely, extremely relevant to you. And if you have any questions about what we're trying to accomplish here, you can ask them really early in advance. So why are we doing this live stream? Why manage our wikis in the first place? Well, normal wikis are kind of hard to navigate, right? It's really hard to understand, well, which resources are relevant to me, what resources under my management, and how deep does it go? How deep does a rabbit hole go when I click into a page? So for example, let me take a look at, a normal wiki from Notion, right? This is one on their website. This is how they expect wikis to look, and this is how I'm guessing 99.9% of your wikis look like as well inside your systems. So you might have sectioning, right? Guides and processes, code base, development, testing, infrastructure, whatever. But as a organizational member, is it very clear to me which one should I click on to learn the things I need to learn? Is it very obvious to me who's in charge of that document? So if I have questions about that document, who do I go to? Is it very clear to me that, how deep does it go? Well, if I click on this, is it a 5-minute read? Is it a 10-minute read? Or is it like a 20-minute read, right? I have no idea. This is information that is beyond my understanding just from looking at the top of this. So it's not very clear to me. So what do we want to do about that, right? How do we solve this? Well, we want to utilize Notion's new wiki feature, which basically it turns any page into also a database of its pages. What does that really mean? Let me explain that first so that everyone can understand that a little bit. So basically what they're saying is that once you click this turn into wiki button, any pages inside your wiki page will essentially be able to be added to a database automatically. Any page that's created inside your wiki will become a database page, which means that you can add properties to it, right? And then you can already think about, you can add, people property, person property. You can add, tags. You can do a lot of really cool stuff now that it becomes a database. And what essentially you unlock is also the ability to use views on your database. And when you use views on your database, what that means is that you can then segment information for each individual person that they want to see, and you can segment information that would make it very easy for you to be able to access that depending on what you need to accomplish. So that is the wiki feature, right? And what we want to do with it basically is to accomplish three things. Again, going back to the why, right? So we want to make sure that there is a owners, right, of wiki pages are very clearly indicated, okay? We also want to make sure that users of wiki pages know where they are expected to look, okay? And then how deep does it go? We want to create a systematic way of ensuring pages don't go too deep. Let me explain what that means. So when you have the Notion wiki feature, any page, I'm saying any page, and any subpages of those pages will become a database entry. So if you imagine that you have a engineer directory, which inside you have multiple pages, right? The pages inside will also become pages inside your database. And there's a lot of benefits to that actually, because if you have pages inside your pages, you might need a certain team member to only care about one specific page inside that page. So I'm going to give you a very quick example. I'm jumping ahead a little bit. I'm going to show you walk you through the whole team space, but let me just jump ahead just for a second because I want to show you. So for example, I might have a lot of people who are involved in creating at the Coex3 family, right? But only some people are managing social media. Only some people need to know about the content calendar. So even though they have access to all these creator resources because we're open and we don't mind people seeing things, we can make it so that specifically that person can be tagged on each specific resource that they actually should care about. And then what happens is we can show a view that would actually, show and hyper focus. For example, I'll show up JC. These are all the resources that are under his purview, right? Under whatever he needs to use or interact with or manage. So it makes it really, really easy for you to essentially make it so that people only need to see what they need to see, and it's just so easy to manage the system from there. So I know I jumped ahead. Let's first talk about the how now, all right? Now that we know why and what, and then I'll describe to you what exactly I've accomplished with my wiki, because I think that the wiki system that we've created is really the most robust system out there. Of course, feel free to find your way as well. I'm not saying that you have to follow us, but at least understand the principles in which we came into this build so that you know how to do it for yourself. Because otherwise, if you just blindly copy, you might not actually get it. And if you just dismiss it because it's not what it looks like to you, right? It doesn't make sense, then you might miss the first principles that will help you build the things that you need to build. So that's very important, right, in this process. Well, that's why I build live. That's why I show you guys this end-to-end process of how I'm thinking so that you know exactly, what goes into this process and you can do it for yourself, ideally. So how? Okay, so very clear. We're going to have a wiki with the following features, okay? So we're going to have a very clear, we're going to have a very clear categorization of wiki pages. We're going to have a very clear properties, right? And then we're going to talk about what properties we use. So properties needs to be very clear. And then we're also going to make sure that there is utility of database views, okay? So I'm going to show you two versions of my wiki. I have a version that is for my team, so anybody who is involved in collaborating or co-creating with Coex3. But I'm also going to show you a version that is more external facing because I think that's also important to understand. So and every organization might have this, right? You might have a wiki that is for internal team members. There's a wiki for prospecting team members or strangers on the internet that might need to access various resources that you have. You're going to have two. So let's go with the internal one first because it's going to give you a lot more clarity on what exactly we could accomplish. So coming back to the Coex3 team space here, I kind of want to talk about a few things here to give you like a very good perspective of exactly how I do this. So on the left side is going to be all the different resources, the pages of the wiki that we want to store. And also some definitions maybe for you guys, if you guys don't know, perhaps you don't use the same definitions as me. Resources for me is basically anything that a team member or anybody needs to read, understand, and manage in order to accomplish a specific task or a specific role. So I have general resources, right? So people can learn about how to onboard themselves, how to manage tasks inside our system, how to do work scheduling, right? And how to do resource management as well. So manage the resources that are under their purview. And actually, in each and single one of these, we actually very clearly have a descriptor at the top, which we explain, okay, so why does this resource exist? And we have to be very justified on every resource because we don't want to create so many. If you've had any organization wiki system, you know that it can immediately blossom into like hundreds and hundreds of pages, right? If you're not careful. So we are very, very sure and certain of every single page that comes into here and what does it mean for that page to exist. So we also have step-by-step processes on like different sections. Okay, so how to use properties, how to complete tasks, how to use any questions that you have, and it just becomes really easy for people to just navigate right and jump straight to the section that they need to be utilizing. And again, it's all about accessibility. If you don't make your wikis accessible, it's going to be very difficult for you to actually get people to engage with your wiki, to read the wiki, right, and also utilize and get the answers they need. And if they can't get the answers they need, then what's the point of this resource page, right? And it's just a waste of resources all around. So those are the general resources. So it's in the base layers in the root page. Anyone can access this. Anybody is able to utilize this page and be able to read and manage and whatever, right? Then we have specific team resources. And I used creator resources earlier, so let's continue using that. So for each of these folders, and this is something that I came up with because I was really trying to solve the problem of how do I make sure that team members see what they need to see and don't get overwhelmed with other resources from other teams that may not be so relevant to them right now. So what we do is we create a new group, and you can add whoever's in there, right? And you say that that group can edit. So you can add groups inside Notion by simply going to your settings page and then adding in a new group, and then you can go ahead and create a group, and then you can just add people to it. So in this case, I just typed creators and then add it into here. Then I make sure that everyone at team has no access to this. So what this means is that only people who are in the creators group will even see this team space pop up, this folder. For everyone else, there is nothing here except for the folders that matter to you. Now you can already imagine how useful that is, right? From a permissions perspective, if you're able to control what different members see, you can make it so easy for them to only have access to the systems they need, and you don't need to rebuild a new dashboard every single time you have a new person coming in. Because that's another problem that I used to have, right? If I had, let's say, 4 teams, 5 teams, I would have 5 different wiki pages for 5 different teams. Does that make sense? Is that really the best way to solve things? I didn't think so, right? And that's why I thought that if I could simplify everything down to one team space, one wiki page, but instead, depending on the person that's looking at that wiki page, I will see something different. That is the best solution overall. That is the only way I think we can make it work, right? Because otherwise, you have so much overload, so much depth of different pages to manage, and it just gets so complicated so fast. So, uh, maybe I'll show you guys how that works too, just to show you. And so what we do basically is when you make a new page, a new folder, basically, right? Because a folder will have a lot of different subpages. What we're going to do is go to settings, under members. We're going to go into our groups here. You can create a group, and then once you create a group, then you can go ahead and add the group you need. And then in that group, you can then click share, and then you type the group name. So for example, creators, and then you click that, and then you change the permissions to can edit, right? So I think it's super important to have this process because otherwise you're not going to be able to really make the full use of the tool that we have here, which is Notion, and be able to actually go ahead and create a system that works for your whole community, right? Your whole organization. So that's step 1, 2-ish, right? We talked about the general resources, we talked about team resources. And now I want to talk about my resources. So my resources basically is how we make sure that, hey, even though you are a creator, you don't need to see all the creator things, right? You just need to be on specific resources that matter most to you. So what we do is we actually have a, maybe we can use, let's use the content calendar one as an example. So at the top here, we can see that we have a few different properties inside each page that exists in our wiki. We have something called co-creators, which for us is just the manager, for example, right? The people who are part of the team that are then leading each resource. The collaborators, which are basically people who are working on the resource, they're collaborating with us, working on it. And then there's a verification that comes with the wiki. So basically we want to verify every time we finish editing a page, how valid should this be and when should we review it again? So in this case, maybe I'll review again in 30 days. Last edited is just to let us know when we last changed something so that, if something changes, people know that, okay, they're not being surprised. And then we have this checkbox here, which for me is the focus checkbox. The focus checkbox is really important because if I take a look at all my resources, right, you can see that I have a lot of stuff here, tons and tons of resources, right? But I choose to focus only at 3 at a time, or whatever else I need to focus on. It could be 3, 5, 10, whatever, right? But I don't need to focus on 50. I need to focus on 3. And what I do is at the beginning of every week, when I'm doing my weekly planning and I understand the tasks or the type of work I want to do for that week, I make it very clear to myself like what resources I want to focus on, whether to improve them, whether to revamp them, or whether to create something from scratch. So that I know that these are the resources that are useful and important to me, and I know that these are the ones that are going to help me move the needle, right, on something in my organization, help me be more clear on some things that I need to do, help a team member be clear on what they need to do and what they need to accomplish, and we move forward from there. So keeping that focus checkbox makes it super clear, and we can have a filter here, right, that says, hey, if co-creators or collaborators includes me, right, which means that either I'm managing or I'm utilizing a resource, and also if the checkbox is checked off, which means that it's in focus, then I should see it. So very, very simple, right? And again, another beauty of having, views be a really fantastic way to interact with your wiki and interact with the way that you want to see your wiki, right? So you saw the info, you saw my resources, which is everything, and now I want to show you the to-dos. So to-dos basically just means that it's anything that, at least in terms of my filters, right, you can change yours, that doesn't have a verification or is an expired verification. What that means is that, hey, this resource is due to be looked at, whether it's just to update information, it's time to update, or whether it's time to revamp it completely because we said, hey, we're not going to look at this for 30 days, we'll come back in 30 days. It's time for us to take a look at that. So everything here is our resources that once I'm done with my in-focus ones, right? Once I have some time, I should take a look at my to-do ones and then kind of tweak it up. So for example, some of them might be missing, cover images, right? Some of them might be needing to add more information, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You just need to make sure and try to be as prudent as possible to, just keep your resources organized. It's very, very important. So the last thing I want to talk about here in regards to resources is templates. So another beauty of being able to make this into a database is that any page inside a database can have access to database templates. And database templates is very nice because it gives you an opportunity to be able to actually go ahead and reproduce, different structures, page structures that really work for you. So as I mentioned earlier, like our resource folder is super clear, right? You describe the intention behind the resource folder. You say why we built this, what does it do, and how does it start. So what you can do here is you can start listing out like, okay, well, this resource folder is to manage everything related to human resources. What does it do? What should handle, contracts, should handle payments, should handle, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, anything else, right? Benefits. So we have very clear what type of information goes into a folder. Again, going back to the Wikis example, why I was always so frustrated about stuff like this is what goes into development and testing, what goes into code base, what's the difference between a code base stuff and infrastructure stuff, right? Unless you're like really experienced with the way that your organization categorizes information, it's not so easy for you to immediately think about, this resource goes there. But with our system, we are that clear because we have very clear definitions of what should exist in each resource folder. So we make it so that it's very simple for anybody to be able to access the things they need, section them off as well, right? Because there are folders and we can do permissioning, and also make sure that people know that, hey, oh, okay, well, this resource should belong here because I have definitions and I have explanations on where and why things go where. So very important stuff, right? You might miss this if you don't, think really deeply about how to build a wiki. And you definitely would miss this if you are, just pasting everything on just a page and having a very flat structure. What we're making is a hierarchical structure, right? Where everything is categorized very clearly. And then you have explanations for those such categorizations. The next thing I want to talk about is resource template. So the resource template is also very important because the resource template basically is the resources that ultimately come under the folders, right? And I like to explain everything in terms of resources into 3 use cases. You saw I had one that was 4. That's an edge case, but ideally you want to limit to 3. And if you have more than 3 use cases for each resource, it's very easy for you to get overwhelmed with what this resource is really trying to manage and really trying to do. If you have more than 3 resources, what my recommendation is create a new one, create a new resource to handle that extra case, because And actually, I think I want to show you that with that case, I kept that open because I wanted to show you why that would be something that needs to be forced one. So it was under task best practices, I believe. Right, cool. So task best practices, right? What falls under it? Well, how to use the properties is a great task, right? Relating to task best practices. Completing tasks is also great. Questions. So what is questions? So questions about tasks. So very important, right? Also a very important, resource. But handling personal and sensitive information, probably not, relevant in task best practices, right? Task practices is about execution, right? Whereas this is more about sensitive information. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cut this. So I did a Command or Control X, depending on what platform you're on, Windows or Mac. And I'm going to go ahead and create a new one. So right now I'm going to create a new page, right? And then I'm going to say new resource, and you can see immediately auto-populates. And I'm going to say handling confidential data, right? Add an icon, so confidential, maybe a shush icon. And then we're going to add a cover. So what does confidentiality look like? Confidential, let's see. Yeah, something like that, let's say. So what we want to explain here, we want to say this resource, what should we do when we are potentially handling, potentially managing sensitive information, right? So I'm not going to do all three use cases right now, but there's probably three, right? You can think of a three, like, maybe like when you're delivering confidential information, maybe when you're storing confidential information on your computer, maybe when you're et cetera, et cetera. Like there's many, many best practices we can put here. But the first one I'm going to put is just the one that I copy and pasted earlier, which is if I'm handling it. So if need to submit sensitive information, right? So if they need to submit sensitive information, you need to let whoever's involved know what you're about to submit. Simple as that, right? Very clear. And as we keep going, as we keep building more of these resources, it makes it very, very easy for us to just keep them organized and keep them available for different people who need to be accessing them inside your organization. So very, very important stuff. Guys, if you have any questions about this, you have to ask me, right, in the chat. Please ask, because I'm more than happy to help you in this process. Because again, as you can see, I thought very, very deeply about this, and there's been a lot of R&D, right, research and development has gotten into this process for me to be able to present it so clearly to you guys. And we're still only halfway done, right? There's so much more to discover. So another thing I want to show you, and this is up to you, how you want to build your organizational space, right? But I also have my success plan here. So my success plan basically is, and I would recommend you watch a video of ours if you want to know more about that. But it's basically our way of being intentional about our goal setting, our objective management, OKR management, our projects, and our task management. It's everything all in one. And the beauty of that is because what we want to accomplish here inside our team space is to have one dashboard for everybody. So likewise, similar to my resources view, everything is filtered by what is collaborator or co-creator is me. So these are all the things that either I'm managing or I'm working with someone on. And what's the beauty of that is that same with my task list, right? So I can see how clearly these are my today's quests. These are my quests that I'm gonna have to do tomorrow. These are quests that I've done this week. These are all my quests that I could be doing that I don't have a date for. I can see all my different projects that I need to accomplish, and I can open it up and I can see more information about that, right? So, for example, right now we're trying to delegate our video editing. We're trying to be more consistent in our content. So what are we trying to accomplish with that? Well, we're trying to reschedule some delayed content. We're trying to reformat our Live Your Best Life series. We're trying to have a more streamlined process for these Friday Live builds into, shorter pieces of content. Last week, we were able to, trim down one of our longer live stream videos into 20 minutes, right? And maybe people like that. I don't know, but we're experimenting, right? So then we have tasks that belong to different people in the organization, whether in this case it's JC or it's myself. And it gives us a really, really good way of being able to see and recognize all the things that we have to do. And again, I don't have to build a new dashboard for everybody. That's just really been my pain point. Like whenever I have to collaborate with people in the community is that, creating new dashboards for everybody and maintaining their version of the dashboard and making sure that they have the updates when we update the main dashboard, and maybe we have different properties, and now they get confused, and maybe everyone's dashboard looks different, so I don't know how to troubleshoot their problems. It's a lot of work. And is that the kind of work that you want to be doing, like when you're just trying to get things done? I just don't think so, right? So those are just my suggestions and how I might give you guys ideas on how to build a very successful internal wiki. I really think this is just beyond useful, absolutely beyond useful. It's just the way, in my opinion, to manage everything. And again, another beauty of this, right, is that you have this view here, but you can also utilize a view that shows you everything in one place, like a table, right? So these are all the different resources that are yours, and you can just manage them and see them all in one place. You can have different types of views on them, so you can go ahead and try your layout. You can do calendar view, board view, timeline view, anything that you want. And I would just highly, highly recommend you consider this way of utilizing your wiki, because any other wiki, I think, doesn't even begin to compare the time saving that you're going to get from organizing your information this way. Cool. So I'm going to jump into one more version of the wiki, as I mentioned before, which is the public wiki. So the public wiki, what I want to showcase about it is it's a way for you to easily be able to show people the public information that you have out there that you want them to understand, know, and be able to interact with. Okay, so from the very beginning of Code Street, we've been very transparent and open with all different programs that we do. We are a nonprofit situated in the U.S., and we want to make sure everybody understands and knows about our projects as much as possible. So on the left side is all the different programs we have at Coextree. And our programs are basically categorized into three different components. The first one is these are our programs that help people unlock their potential, right? So we help creative students, second winders with knowledge to level up every day, tools to put their learning into action, and a community to never struggle alone. So these are all the different resources that essentially help our community level up, right, in some meaningful way. Then we have programs that are all about making positive impact. So how do we help them make positive impact? How do we, help them live beyond their own individual selves? You're leveled up. Now let's help other people level up. And then finally, how do you live your best life, right? How do you join us as part of the team and be part of this movement where your passion is your career and you are able to go out there and, just level up every day, work with people that are amazing, like-minded, and courageous and curious about the world, and go and make a positive impact on other people's lives, right? So these are all different programs that we have. And what I want to show you here is, again, a similar idea to how we managed all the different pages inside our internal team space, right? So for example, for the wiki, right now what we want to do is we want to say, hey, what is what is this thing that's all about? Like, what is the statement about this page, right? For example, this is one of our programs, our Family Without Borders. Why do we build it, right? What does it matter? Like, okay, well, this is the reason. What does it do? Okay, this is what it does. And then how does it start? And then people can then get involved. So we make it so easy for people to understand, like, okay, so this is the structure. If I open a wiki page, I will understand exactly why this exists. I'll understand what does it do, and how do we get involved. And then it's so easy for people to collaborate and so easy for people to be involved part of your journey because they know exactly what's going on. So let's take a break and let's drink some water, right? Remember, guys, to stay hydrated. And I'm just so passionate about this, as you guys can tell, because there's just so much time I personally saved and so much headache that I have removed from my life because I don't need to think about how to manage all these different resources, these different pages, these different dashboards, these different databases, because they're all just in one place, and I can use permission management to make it really easy for people to see what they need to see. As you can see at the top, we can have co-creators. Okay, we have collaborators. So again, just to reiterate, co-creators is someone that is managing the page, right, in charge of creation of the page. Collaborators are people who are going to be utilizing the page, right, using the information in some way, transforming it, utilizing it to do a specific role or to understand something. Verification, again, is just to make sure that we are verifying some of the information, making sure that it is something that we want to, how valid is this information for, right? Is it something that we want to come back in like 3 weeks, 1 month, 2 months? Transformation is really cool. So again, like I mentioned before, you can add tags now to your pages, which means that now you can have, a very clear idea. Okay, so this is under the transformation, unlock your potential, right? And then we have the type. Well, it's unlocking your potential for community members, for in community, right? Or we're unlocking your potential for knowledge, or we're unlocking your potential for action. Everything is super clear, super concise, and we make it so that it's so easy for people to be able to then say, hey, right? Well, what if I want views to see everything else, right? What if I want to see all the different things that I want to manage, right? It's all my programs. So again, back to the idea of views, being able to see things inside your wiki, your system makes it so easy for you to organize and manage things the way that you want to manage them and organize them the way that you need to see them. And so I even have a very interesting way of showing, for example, the funnel of how people get involved in some of our programs. So for example, right, maybe I'll just use this whole thing, right? So for example, right now we're trying to organize our different funnels into specific channels and transformations. So an example of that would be like, okay, so for the Coaster AI assistant, maybe they find us on a backlink site, right? So maybe we go ahead and maybe they find us on Facebook, maybe find us on YouTube, maybe someone talks about us. But let's say backlink sites for now, okay? So they find us on a backlink site. Then they land to our website. That's the interest funnel, right? Then they learn about how our AI assistant's gonna help them level up. Then they get some free AI credits to help them get information and learn more about themselves, understand, oh, how can I be more productive, or understand like, okay, based on my Notion habits and my task management, how feasible are my future plans, right, to accomplish this goal in this many months, right? So it gives you feedback on that and gives you reflections and insights. Then you might want to pay for AI credits, right? Oh, this is beneficial to me. This is helpful. I want to get more insights. I want to learn more about myself. I want to be able to succeed. And then eventually maybe get a subscription. So we have a very clear like kind of funnel to help people transform their lives in a meaningful way with each of our programs. And now what we can do inside our wiki is just be very clear and very upfront with everything and just map it all out. Because again, we have the system that can now link and connect and showcase the information that people need to see as they go through their different information. So I kept a few of these blank because I wanted to show you how it would work. And I want to kind of show you guys, maybe for example, Coister Retreats. Okay, so this is a brand new program, right? Hasn't even been announced yet, so you guys will be the first to know. As always, people who are watching us live will be able to see things first. But basically, we're creating a retreat program in next year, early next year. So what is Coister Retreats, right? So we're going to explain that. So what is Coister Retreats? We think that we want to make it easier. We want to create an experience that enables people from around the world to have a dedicated learning experience for a specific book, mental model, or idea, and travel to a destination where they can tour the country and practice their learning together with a group. So, so then let's keep explaining, right? So why do we build this? Many times we want to learn something new, read a book, etc., but the environments at our own homes are comfortable, and we may not put our full effort into digesting the information and processing it. So what do we do instead, right? A retreat offered by community members around the world, 1 to 2 week program to learn, to book club basically, right? So which means they read a book, have meet every day to discuss the book, go around the country and tour around and make observations relevant to the learning, right? So this is an early idea that we're working together with some wonderful people in Japan to offer our first retreat experience. And so it makes it really easy for us to be able to go ahead and create pages like this so that, people can go ahead and support us, right? And, be a part of this. So again, it's so important for you and for anybody else to be able to understand how do you create a wiki, how do you create something clean, concise, and you know distributive, right? Like it's scalable. You can see I can easily create new pages. Anybody can create new pages as well. I'm going to show you. I have a best practice document that also explains to people how they can create new wikis and new team spaces, right? And the reason why it's also well documented is because it's simple. The simplest answer is always the best answer. And I just don't think the simple answer is having pages everywhere on a flat structure, right? So there's no permissions management. Or I don't think the simplest way is to have, 10 different dashboards for 10 different members. And if you think about our community, we have tens and thousands of people around the world. How are they going to be able to manage their systems if they're going to have a unique dashboard for every single one who's interacting with our community, to help with our community, to be part of our community, right? It doesn't make sense. So let's go ahead and just add some small things so that it looks good. So let's add some images. So retreat. So something like that, or even something like this. This would be nice. But yeah, so I'm going to show you as one of our last things our design system. So our design system basically is the way that we organize all our information so that it's very easy for people to understand how we built something and the best practices that go into each one. So for our wiki, right? Again, you can see all my resources are very clearly labeled. We have a statement, we have 3 use cases, and we explain them, right? So the first one is programs. We have programs, we explain what that's all about. We have transformations, we explain what that's all about. And then we have your live your best life, so we explain what that's all about. For team spaces best practices, again, statement, then the fundamentals, what it's all about. Resources, so we explain what resources should be and what they should look like. We have templates on how they look like. Again, these are links to the templates, the database templates I showed you before. And then we have success plan, right? So we explain why that matters and how does that exist in this playground, and how people can utilize them in their own, so they can succeed in being a part of the community and being a part of our system. So yeah, I hope this was enlightening and helpful for you guys. I really do, because this process, like I mentioned at the very beginning, took a while for me to really hammer down, a lot of testing, right? And I hope that, as always, my learnings and my brainstorming and my, I guess, testing with myself and with the community can help you, right? Not have to make the similar trials and tribulations that we've gone through, right? For you to just be able to jump straight into it and learn the best practices that came with our discovery, right? And find your way. I don't think my way is exactly how you're going to do it. Maybe you don't have your pages on this side. Maybe you have it on the right side instead. Maybe you have different views than what we use. That's okay. But the most important thing is understanding why we did something, what we did about it, and then how we went about it, which will give you your answer to succeed in building the thing that you need for you, your organization, your community, your family, whoever you're trying to build something for. So that's it, guys. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful start to your weekend. And please take care. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye bye.